So we are now in the Fisk University gym where this gentleman to my left spent many of his years in it.
Yeah.
So I wanted to make sure that I brought Jeremy on so he could talk about his Fisk experience and what he's doing today. So welcome, Jeremy.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. I'm honored.
So let's just hop right into it.
Okay.
So tell me about you. Where are you from?
So I am from Nashville. I grew up out east, and I'm off of Dixon Road in the Hillhurst apartment area, right around the corner from Maplewood High School. I left, went to high school in Illinois for 4 years, and then came back and came here.
So what brought you to Fisk?
I had a point to prove, basketball-wise. So I knew about Fisk academically, so I knew about the chemistry path, so that really kind of led me as well. But also, I really wanted to play basketball, and so had a really hard time getting some recruiting my senior year. And so there were literally two schools that I played in some AAU tournaments during the summer, and there were two schools that recruited me. It was Butler University and Fisk University. It was a tough decision to make because Butler started to go to the NCAA tournament every single year for like the last 4 or 5 years during that time. But Fisk wanted me to play immediately. And I just feel like I had a lot to show, and Butler was going to redshirt me. So it was like, plus I wanted to come back to Nashville. So it's like home, play ball, have to wait a year, Butler, let's go back home.
Any regrets?
None. I think the only thing that I play around with during the time, 2009 and 2010 year, Butler went to the NCAA championship. So I had to sit there and watch that. But I wouldn't take my experience away from anything. I did a lot of great things here, and I wouldn't be who I am now if it wasn't for Fisk and the people that I met here.
So let's unpack that a little bit from the Fisk experience perspective.
Yeah.
What was it like stepping on the campus day one?
It was overwhelming, but in a really good way. I got a chance to meet some of my now best friends still. I met some of the best people, some of the most innovative people that I've ever met, some of the best minds that I've ever met that really challenged me in every single way. But just the friendships that I was able to build. So day one, a lot of that stuff has still been what it's been to this day.
So it's going through because you were a chemistry major, correct? What made you get into that realm?
Man, I asked myself the same question. But I initially wanted to go into pharmacy. That was in every pharmacist that I talked to, that was the path, because the majority of the courses you needed for pharmacy school came from the chemistry major. So that was the reason. And it was probably, I appreciate it now because chemistry, if nothing else, teaches you how to be very analytical and use your critical thinking skills. So it's panned out and helped me in so many other ways.
God bless you, because I did not make it through chemistry. I couldn't for the sake of my life.
It's just a different language. That's all it is. And I think with the professors that we had here, they really pushed you to understand that language. And so it's no different than finance. It's no different than, poli-sci, anything else. You have to understand the language, and so therefore to be able to be better at what you're going to be doing.
So after Fisk, what was your track?
My track was all over the place. That was during the time, so I got accepted. I took the PCAT, getting ready to go to pharmacy school, got accepted, and right around that time, some things happened in the pharmacy realm that completely took me away from pharmacy. And at that particular point in time, I didn't know what in the world I was going to do. So I had known since my sophomore year in high school I wanted to be a pharmacist. So now I'm working in the field, finally meet the goal. And it's like, now, this is not aligning with what I want to do anymore. what in the world what am I going to do? And so I looked at medical, started working at Meharry. Then that didn't want to go medical. Then I started looking at dental. I was like, okay, cool. So after I kind of settled in on dental, and so, but at the same point in time, I still had some other aspirations. So I ended up starting a business a little bit right after I graduated. And that kind of just propelled everything else from there.
And you're one of the first people that I remember, especially like in our class, of really taking the entrepreneurial track. Because, I went straight corporate. That was kind of my path. So let's unpack entrepreneurship life.
Yeah. Yeah.
How has that been?
It is coal pressured into diamonds. That's best way I would put it.
Can you explain what you do? Because I want to make sure people
Okay,
know who
good
you
deal.
are.
So I started, I own a company called The Cleaning Executives. We do commercial, residential, and post-construction cleanup. So literally just kind of started from a Fiskite actually. She actually reached out and wanted me to clean her home. And I thought she was joking. But I went on ahead and did it anyway. And she literally showed me business on a very basic level, and just kind of took it from there.
So going into that space, I say you literally started from the ground up. So how did you grow your business to employees? You had, we'll get to the kind of all the ups and downs of being an entrepreneur. Like, how is that?
So at the time, I did not have much money, but I knew that this was something that I loved doing. I loved cleaning. That was kind of my stress reliever. So when I figured out how to monetize it, still with not having any money, I'm like, okay, cool. What can I do in a space where there's a lot of people at that time who had kind of cornered the market? Well, at that time, social media was really starting to bloom. And so you didn't need any money for that. So plus, in my industry, a lot of people who own cleaning companies were older. They were 50 plus. So they weren't using websites like that. It was more so they had a landing page. If they even had that, they definitely didn't have social media. So I'm like, hey, if I beat down social media every single day, then I can get the traction that I need to try to catch up. And so that was the approach that I took. I didn't have a marketing budget, but social media just paved the way for that. So the more and more I started doing, the more that I was able to get the traction that I needed. And the biggest thing that helped that was I knew if I came in low that I would get people's attention. So I would clean an entire house for $40.
I remember that.
Right.
I was in Omaha, and I was like, how can I get it?
And the thing was, I knew that I would not make any money. I knew I wouldn't make a dime from any cleaning, because unless I clean for an hour, and the likelihood of doing a great job in the hours, unless you're just a very, very clean person, it's not going to happen. So I knew I wasn't going to make any money, but I knew the social traction that I would get and the digital traction I would get from other people and word of mouth would spread a lot farther than me getting $40 or more than $40 for this cleaning. So that's what ended up occurring. So I would do a cleaning, whether it took me 2 hours, it took me 6 hours. I would do it, get $40, and just go.
How long did you do that?
I did it for about 2 years.
Wow.
I did it for about 2 years. And so I knew things had started picking up because Groupon had just started, really started to take some traction as well. And I saw a cleaning special come up for $40. And I'm like, okay, someone has seen it and someone's trying to emulate, which is fine. But I knew it was time for me to grow at that point because there was more than enough people starting to speak and the name was starting to progress. And so I was like, cool. So we started looking at that, but the problem was I had a mom and pop name at that time. And I knew I wasn't going to go any further unless I rebranded the company.
So you rebranded, and what came from that? Or like, how hard was that to rebrand?
It was difficult because in my mind, you look at, so it's like McDonald's changing the entire look of McDonald's. It wouldn't be McDonald's as much as it would be anymore because you know the golden arches, right? You know the colorway red, yellow, white. You know those things. So it was difficult because I didn't know how this was going to work. You didn't know you built all this traction with this one name. Now you're changing it to something else.
Yeah.
Who's to say everyone's going to come over? So, but I knew I had to try it. And so the name actually came from our group that we had in college called the Young Execs. So Stephen Smith, Edmund Williams, Saban Russ, Matthew Abraham, Dennis Van Sciver, myself, so many others. We had started this group, and at that time it was just music. It was music oriented. And so Steve and I had a conversation of how we're going to keep this brand moving forward back in 2009, 2010. It was like, hey, let's start businesses. So we're going to branch this out and have enterprise businesses that we keep the brand going. And so I started cleaning executives. But I went away from it for so long because I'm like, I wanted to try to be super creative, and it was right there in my face the entire time.
And that's hard sometimes to step into it. But obviously, I would say even from the entrepreneur side, you are also in the military.
Yes, yes.
So did you start your military journey as an entrepreneur?
No, so I started the entrepreneurial journey and then I joined the military. I looked at what my retirement goal was financially, and I'm like, okay, cool. I have some bad debt, some student loan debt, right? So how do I get rid of that? I'm like, I don't want to pay this out of my own pocket. All right. So how can I do this? So military was paying off about $50,000 of student loans. So I'm like, hey, cool, you're in luck. I got $50,000 to give you. So I'm like, perfect. Let's see how this goes. I was very reluctant about it though, because from what I knew about the military, which was much. I didn't know much of anything. I just kind of thought everyone was going to war and things of that nature. And when I found out it was way more to it than that, I felt more comfortable, but still kind of reluctant. But as I started going down this military journey, I saw how many things I was able to benefit from, as well as how it benefited my business. And so it's been a phenomenal journey.
So do you feel you're going to be in there forever?
It's a good question. We'll see where God takes me. I do not know, but I know right now with what I'm doing, I thoroughly enjoy it. I enjoy teaching people and educating people on how to be able to get what they need to take their careers, take their education goals, take their financial goals to the next level with utilizing the National Guard.
So I would say it's always interesting, you touched on social media. And one of the big reasons why I wanted your story to be shared, from a multitude of reasons, but I always say that people have these defining moments. And so for me, I always remember when I first saw the picture that you put on, I believe it was Facebook, and it was an image of your car.
Yeah.
And as a friend, I was shocked because I didn't even know like that was something that you're going through. And there's so many things that people go through in silence.
Definitely.
And I commend you for sharing that story. And I really, would love to just share in this context of, that journey and that defining moment for you.
Definitely. So that moment was coming off of apex of some of the best years that I was having in business. I had just 2016, going into 2016 rather, I had landed my first six-figure account. We started landing really big contracts with some of the top Fortune 100 companies, and we were doing really well. So a lot of hotels in this area, we were getting a lot of contracts, and it was really much of a blessing, because I just didn't think, we all had these dreams and goals, right? But when they start manifesting and rearing their heads, like, okay, cool, this is what you asked for, it's here. You don't really expect it, so to speak. You want it, but to see it happen, it's like, oh my goodness, this is really happening. So that time had come. But again, everyone has that time where God kind of has to bring you in and show you, like, okay, it's me and you. And so that time came for me into 2017, going into 2018. So one of the best things that ever happened to me, my daughter was born in October 6th of 2017. But at the same point in time, we started losing contracts. So literally came from, October, she's born, November, I'm going to Grand Rapids to pitch my business, win a pitch competition. I'm like, cool, we're going. End of November, going into December, we started losing contracts left and right. Just companies were either dissolving or relocating. And so we went from making a whole lot of money to down to $40,000 for annually. And you know, as a business owner, if your company's making $40,000, you're not making $40,000.
Right.
So all the while, I still have this child that I have to take care of. So it was the most daunting task of, okay, how am I going to make this work? And I'm about to be homeless. So there was nothing more that could be done. So we started February 11th. I started packing my stuff, removing my stuff out of my apartment, and selling stuff, do what I needed to clear everything out, and prepare to live into my car. And that was probably the best thing that ever happened to me, because during that time, you have no option, especially now that you have a child to take care of. This child didn't ask to be here, and at the same point in time, it's completely reliant on you to make it happen. And so between God and just an extreme level of focus, because I had to make this work. So I knew that if nothing else, I had $40 a month that I could get a Y membership, so I could go work out, take a shower, and make sure I was clean, because I still had to go, try to get contracts, make more money. I knew I could afford a loaf of bread and some peanut butter and some water. Thankfully, during that time as well, my mentor that I have now was really much of a blessing, because during that time as well, I also had to have surgery, on my knee. And so at that time, I didn't know how I was going to balance all that and how that would work. And so I was allowed, he had a space that he needed. Basically, he was an Airbnb, he was getting built and needed someone to watch it.
Wow, yeah.
So when it was cleared, I was able to manage the place. And so it was more so he gave me an opportunity to kind of rest and, recover. So I was greatly appreciative of it, but I also realized that I couldn't rely on him to allow, I couldn't rely on that. I had to figure it out on my own. This was one of those things where no one can really help you. You have to figure this out, because this is one of those defining moments of either you're going to make yourself or you're going to continue to be stagnant wherever you are. And so during that time, God just really, really blessed the company and blessed myself and my family. We went from making that $40,000 projected annually to $350,000 in 7 months.
Wow.
And it was just because, again, we went on the grind, even with having a knee surgery, even with everything else, still went out and cleaned, still did everything I needed to do to build this company back up. And so that was, once I overcame that, what else God has to show you? You didn't have much of anything. Now that you are able to take care of yourself and do abundance of that stuff that you need, other than believe in Him.
That is, sometimes people can't make it out, when all of those things hit you.
Yeah.
And so I was just sit in awe, wow, knowing your journey, for us literally to be sitting here.
Yeah.
It's magical.
Indeed.
So let's go back and say now military-wise. What do you do for the military?
So, career counselor and recruiter. My goal is simply showing people how and what the National Guard actually is. Most people think it's fighting, shooting, killing. That's what everyone thinks when they see. When you see this, it's like, hey, he's getting ready to go to war. Something bad is happening right now, and that's not necessarily the case at all. There's so many things, from finance to medical to media to everything that on the civilian side that there's a position for the most part, there's a job in the military that can teach you how to do that. And the thing that I love about the military is that you actually get paid to get trained on the things that you want to do. We go to school and pay the school to go get this degree. And so a lot of people get training and they can go out and utilize the exact same training and certifications immediately and then go into debt for it.
Yeah. That's my past company, probably current company. Past company had a big veteran hire base, and it was so interesting to see how transferable that experience was in coming into the corporate world.
Indeed, the military now has integrated a lot of their training into a civilian education base. So now it makes it easier to transition from military to civilian world and not really skip a beat. That was an issue, decades ago. They, a lot of soldiers did not come back to having opportunities where they could transition. Now there's so many opportunities for them to do so from the education space, some trainings and certifications that it makes it very, very easy to come in and transition in and out.
And you, I would say, put me up on some knowledge of knowing about all the entrepreneurs in the military.
Indeed.
Which I had no idea.
It's a lot. And so a lot of people don't look at it that, most people just see us and this is just what we do.
Yeah.
So being in a space where, you can, support a veteran, support a minority veteran, or just supporting a veteran in general, it's very, very important because, some of us have gave the ultimate sacrifice. Some of us are, going out and actually fighting for, our country and to come back and support them to be able to build better families for themselves and a better community. It's just all, all we ever want. So.
So what is next on the horizon for you?
Next on the horizon, so one of the things that I always had a passion for, fragrance. So I always like to smell good. I've tried my best to make sure that I had in college, had at least 10 fragrances I could kind of go to make sure that I was never funky. I didn't want to be that kid. And so it was just 2019, my father had bought me a bottle for Christmas, and I was like, well, I looked at it, something I already had, but I was also thankful because I needed some more. But I was like, why not just make this? Like, I have a chemistry degree. I'm sure I can study the notes and understand. Why don't I make this? He was like, you make fragrance? I'm like, yeah, I can figure it out.
I'll figure it out.
And so my father now, he's kind of learned not to question, because he questioned initially when I started the company, and now he's like one of the biggest fans of it now. So he's like, well, I'll go do it. And so now just kind of started going on. I wanted to learn, just like I waited kind of to do what I needed to do. I had so many years of training of cleaning at the time. I knew how to do it once it was time. But now I'm in the space of just kind of making sure I understand everything before we start executing and rolling out different fragrances. So
I'm ready. So the big question I've asked everyone is, this is for the kids. So what advice would you give your younger self or a young person today?
I would say now, be more wise with your money. Make sure that you are taking care of business financially to set yourself up by the time you're 30. And number 2, read as much as you possibly can. And number 3, be a risk taker. If you don't die from it, you're okay. Because again, you have another day to get up and figure it out. There are people who lose millions of dollars every day and then they come back and make millions of dollars every day. So if you do not die from it, you will live and you will be okay.
Love it.
Yeah.
Well, that's all I have for you today, sir.
Well, I appreciate you. I appreciate you. I'm super proud of you and what you are doing and who you're becoming. This has been who you are. And so now just continue, and whatever we can do from the military side, from every entrepreneur that I know, they would be more than happy to support you.
Thank you. And I wore my military jacket for you.
I
so
see, man. I see.
had, you know, come fresh.
I see, man. Salute to you. Salute to you.
Well, that is all for today, good people. We'll talk later.